Just imagine, and sometimes I ask myself, what if, during the Holocaust, what if international journalists, of course, there were no international journalists allowed into the concentration camps, right? But what if the Jewish people had Instagram and X and Facebook, and from inside the concentration camps, they were documenting their lives, how the Nazis were, were killing them and starving them? What if they were posting these videos and posting online, and then you have Nazis saying, "Oh, this is propaganda. We are not doing this. These are lies." But they themselves, and the Nazis themselves, document and share videos of their war crimes they are committing. This is what's happening in Gaza, and the world shall never be forgiven.
Hello everyone, I'm Rania Khalek and this is Dispatches. It's been 22 months since Israel launched its genocidal assault on Gaza, slaughtering tens of thousands, displacing nearly the entire population, and reducing much of the Strip to rubble. But it hasn't stopped there. Now the Israelis are waging a war of starvation. Food convoys are blocked. Palestinians are intentionally shot while trying to access aid. Children are dying of hunger. This is deliberate. This is extermination by design. Joining me to speak about this and so much more is someone who knows the brutality of this genocide firsthand. Mosab Abu Toha is a Palestinian poet, essayist, and the founder of the Edward Said Library in Gaza. He's also a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer whose words have captured the pain, the beauty, and the resilience of his people. Earlier in the genocide, Mosab and his family were forcibly displaced. And as they tried to leave Gaza, he was jailed and beaten by Israeli forces. Today, he joins us to share his story and reflect on the worsening famine and all the loss in Gaza. But before we jump into it, this is just part of this episode. The full interview is available to Breakthrough News members only. You can become a member at patreon.com/breakthrough news. And as always, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get a notification whenever we post new content. And if you appreciate this show, you can also donate below on YouTube. Mosab, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Rania, for having me.
There's so much I want to get into with you, and you're just talking to me about how difficult it is to follow the news, to do interviews, to also live life. I know, you have your family that you have to deal with as well, and your family at home where you are now, and then in Gaza. So I think, a good place to start would be, before we kind of get into some other things, let's start with what's happening right now, because it's hard to even think it could get worse, but it literally is. Like every day, every week, the situation in Gaza gets worse. So can you just give us an idea? You're constantly in contact with friends and family in Gaza, from what I can tell. What's the situation on the ground in Gaza today as you understand it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we have to mention today that 90 people were killed, 34 of them while seeking aid. So when we talk about seeking aid, we're talking about the GHF death traps in Rafah, in Khan Yunis, near the Netzarim corridor. And now we're talking about the Zikim crossing, which is in Beit Lahia, where I used to live before I had to leave Gaza. So that's the Zikim crossing between Israel and Beit Lahia. That's to the very end of North Gaza. So people are gathered there, not because there is a distribution site, but because that's from where the aid trucks are starting to enter, for at least for the past 10 days. So people are gathered there. I lost a second cousin of mine 10 days ago, who is a father of 5 children. The oldest is 11, the youngest 1 year and a half. So people are gathered there. Not because they have the time, to go out, not because they are bored, of staying inside their tents for weeks and months, now 22 months, but because people are not gonna get food while they are staying in their tents, because there is no distribution system. The situation in Gaza is worsening day after, even minute after minute. So people know that it's either they stay in their tents and they could be killed in their tents, and they are going to suffer in their tents because there is not enough food, there is no clean water, and people, Rania, and people don't talk about this. People in Gaza do not have any source of income, even if there is some kind of goods in the market, if there is a market, even if there's something to buy. People do not have any source of income, at least for the past 22 months. People do not. For example, my wife's family, had a strawberry farm, a cornfield that they used, to get to earn money. But for 22 months, the cornfield is gone, everything is gone, and they don't have any source of income. So people have to go out, to those places, whether it's the so-called GHF, or now to the Zikim crossing, and they know that they could not go back at all. They could be the the thing that their relatives would be carrying on their backs instead of a sack of wheat flour. They could return with a missing, limb, like what happened to my friend Muayyad al-Bahri, who's my age, father of 2 children, who just the same day my second cousin was killed, was not shot by any Israeli sniper or was not hit by any shrapnel, but the food trucks ran him over. And there is something that I think needs investigation, which is the fact that the food trucks drivers have been given orders by the Israeli soldiers not to stop anywhere near the aid crossing, the Zikim crossing. Even if they had to crush people, even if they had to run people over, and that happened so many times. I get messages and comments on my social media, people telling me that the aid trucks ran them over, ran their relatives over. That's how my friend Muayyad lost his limb. So it's not only the Israeli snipers who have been opening fire, not the Israeli shells, not the Israeli drone strikes on people. That same day, Sunday, my wife's brother and her cousin were injured after Israel fired a shell on them just before the Zikim crossing opened. So they are now hospitalized in a field hospital in Deir al-Balah. Last thing. Today, my friend Saber, about whom I wrote at least 2 of my essays in the New Yorker, I wrote about his children, how he's struggling to find food, etc. Today, he sent me a video of him going for the second time in about 3 months to the Rafah distribution center. It's not distribution, by the way, but this is what it's called. He went there. The gunfire was very intense. He told me he literally saw 3 people being, removed from the site, as if, people have become objects, So people are being killed in front of you as you are waiting to get some aid. People just remove whoever was killed, put them on the side of the street, waiting for an ambulance. So, we have been dehumanized. We have been, we have become something different because of this Israeli genocide. People sometimes see people who are bleeding in front of them. They know that there is no ambulance. People would leave them because they want to find food. Just imagine to what extent Israel has led us.
It's so horrifying. It's like it's 2 million people being subjected to Hunger Games. And I know that's what you just said is probably like barely a fraction of the stories that you are hearing from people that just are as horrifying as what you
But I'm not hearing because I'm not talking to 2 million people. These are
right, of course. These are the ones in our
yeah.
Right. And also speaking of the fact, everything you're talking about, people are subjecting themselves to what they know is potential amputation, being shot at, and death because they're hungry and desperate for food. And I'm sure you saw this news, the integrated food security phase classification, which is this UN global hunger monitoring system, has now warned that the worst case scenario of famine is unfolding in Gaza. And, we see, I think something like 150 people have been documented. I'm sure it's been more, to have literally died of starvation. And obviously Israel has cut off aid from the beginning, but in the last few months that aid cutoff has been so extreme because they are literally trying to starve the population out of Gaza. So I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about what's happening, with food, with aid, and the issue of hunger, which has become, the most dominant problem in Gaza now, with literally like food running out to zero.
Yeah. So So when I talk about starvation as a Palestinian, it's not only about the lack of food. For example, when you let in, a few trucks of, flour, of rice, of frying oil, of sugar, So this is even this small number of trucks. This is not gonna solve the starvation problem, because you have 2 million people, and these people at least daily, especially because before the start of the genocide, people in Gaza needed 500 trucks. These 500 trucks, daily. Some of them were food, some of them were oil, some of them were construction material. But now I think it is more than 500 trucks that is needed in Gaza, because the farms in Gaza on which people have relied, to eat, is gone, right? So there is no production in Gaza. So people in Gaza daily need 500 trucks. Now, for the past, between March and I think May, Israel blocked all food trucks from entering Gaza. So who's gonna make for the lack of the food trucks at all during these about 80 days? So letting in even 200 food trucks is not going to solve this problem, because you have 2 million people. And the starvation, again, is not only about, the lack of food. So there are some people who do not need flour, who do not need rice, who do not need lentil. They do not need sugar. They need, life-saving supplies, because these people need, some kind of food that is going to help their bodies grow. So this is why some of the children who are dying in Gaza, they are not dying because there is no flour, because these children are not gonna eat bread or eat rice. These are 5 months old, 1, 2. Some people are 10 years old and they cannot eat flour at all. They cannot eat bread. Some of these babies need baby formula that Israel has been blocking, and even the Israelis stopped some doctors who were coming to Gaza to volunteer. They prevented them from bringing some formula that they were putting in their pockets. Just imagine. So starvation is not only about the lack of flour, the lack of lentil and sugar and rice and frying oil and canned food. Canned food. I mean, the kind of food that Israel is letting in is not healthy at all. We are not spoiling ourselves. But to be honest, this food, is not enough for a 2 million people population. Some people need healthy food, fruits, vegetable, meat. Some pregnant mothers are not going to rely on flour. So this is why we have children who are born with genetic disorders, and some of these, genetics babies that were born, just like anywhere in the world with genetic disorders. These babies need special food that Israel is not allowing. So if you are gonna prevent this special food from entering to Gaza, then you are causing their death. They died not only because they were born with genetic disorders, because so many people were born this way and they continue to live and they were not suffering like that. But the fact that Israel has been blocking this special food and medicine and baby formula from entering caused their death. So this is part of the starvation mechanism.
It's so insane. And, I remember, I live in Lebanon. I was outside of Lebanon when there was like the big war last year. It started in September. Yeah. And I remember how difficult it was. Every single day I was obsessively following the news. Because it's one thing, obviously it's horrifying to see what's happening in Gaza, but I haven't been to Gaza. I don't know the streets in Gaza. I know the streets in Lebanon. I know the streets in Beirut. So I remember every single day I'm watching where every single bomb is falling. I'm constantly talking to people. It was terrible for that time that I was away. You've been doing this for almost 2 years. I know, talking to your, since you left, you were there for the beginning of it, and we can talk about that. But I can't even imagine what it's been like to not only have gone through what you went through, which was being jailed by the Israelis on your way out and subjected to torture, or being beaten, I should say. And then also having to enter into a media environment where you're just subjected to so many lies that you with your own eyes have seen are lies. And even now you see the Israelis constantly saying in English and then something else in Hebrew, but in English, you'll have Netanyahu saying, no, like Palestinians are not starving. There's no famine. Hamas is just stealing aid. I'm just curious on a psychological level, how are you doing? Because I can't imagine, this must be so difficult. You're seeing from afar, your home be destroyed, your people be subjected to slaughter and starvation. And then also having to play this horrible game on Twitter where you're constantly debunking the lies?
Yeah. Well, first of all, every Palestinian, whether they were in Gaza or they are, or if, even those in the West Bank, when they watch that this a Palestinian American who was killed by settlers, when they say, "Oh, these settlers were defending themselves," while everyone knows, in the West Bank and people who visit the West Bank, that these are illegal settlers, armed settlers, terrorist settlers, have been, terrorizing the Palestinian people there. So it's not difficult only for me as a Palestinian from Gaza, but every Palestinian, they know how painful it is, to be dehumanized and lied about, and to be, portrayed as a villain, as someone who's been, terrorizing other people, while it is the other way. Just before we started this call, I saw a quote by Golda Meir, I think the first or second Israeli prime minister, who said you cannot negotiate peace with people who have come to kill you. And I mean, it was funny, but I mean, what made it funnier is the fact that she was born in Russia.
Yeah. She came to kill you. She actually, it's like the Israelis came.
We did not come from anywhere. We did not come from anywhere. The Palestinian people have been there for centuries, right? And it is the only land that we know, even as people, people my age, my father's age, my grand. So this is the only land we know. But other people who came from Russia, from Europe, persecuted there at the hands of the Nazis, not the Palestinian people or the Arabs. They are the ones who came to kill us, not us. We have been there. We are the people of the land. So for me, after I left Gaza, two things have been, very horrifying for me. One of them is the one that you mentioned, having to, being subjected to the propaganda, as we are, as especially as we know what Gaza is, the kind of people who live there, the structure of the families there, the buildings, the schools, the hospitals. It is so. These are words you see in the news, but for me, these are places that I knew, that I lived in. The schools that Israel is bombing, these are the schools where I studied or where I taught. The hospital that Israel bombed, Al-Shifa, for example, Al-Auda Hospital, Al-Shifa Hospital, Kamal Udwan Hospital, the Indonesian hospital, Al-Ahli Hospital. These are hospitals that I visited, where I was treated. There was a Al-Wafa Hospital, which is for the elderly people. At one point, it had a section where doctors operated on people who had pieces of shrapnel in their body after Israeli airstrike. I had a surgery on me to remove 2 pieces of shrapnel from my body. So these hospitals, when they are bombed, when they are raided by the Israeli forces, these are places that I know. These are the places where I had some tests. These are places where I had surgeries on my body. So this is the one of the painful and horrifying experiences someone like me goes through nearly every day. The other horrifying experience is watching houses and schools and neighborhoods and cities currently wiped out from the map. So when you watch videos of Beit Hanun, I mean, it's not the Palestinian people who are documenting this war crime, the crime of, wiping out a whole city from the face of the earth. This is a war crime. So it's the Israelis who are documenting this. This is the strange thing about this genocide. It's not only the Palestinians who are documenting the genocide and posting the videos and photos online, but it's also the Israeli soldiers who use their technology, their phones, to document the moment when they blow up entire neighborhoods. So it is them also. So it's not a propaganda when we say that Israel is destroying houses, killing people. They document these things, and a few months later, someone, a soldier who felt sorry about what he did, comes out and say, "Oh yeah, we were given order to kill 3 objects," and later it turned out to be a mother and her 2 children. And then an American contractor, just 2 days ago said, "Oh, we opened fire on these people. They were not armed. They were innocent." And he had to resign because this is wrong. So it's not only us who from day one said this is wrong, this is terrorism. They themselves come out a few months, a few weeks maybe 2 years later to say, oh yes, what the Palestinians were saying was true. They did not pose any threat to us. The vehicles that, and the 15 medics in Rafah, they did not pose any threats. The lights were on. They were identified as ambulances. So they admitted that it was, quote, professional failure, right? So we have been watching all of these things from afar. But for me, when I watch these things, these are places, as I said, these are places that I know personally. A few days ago, my brother-in-law sent me a video of our neighborhood in Beit Lahia, where I grew up from 2000 when we left the refugee camp up until I had to leave Gaza in 2023. Not a single house was standing. And even more horrific, even the neighborhoods farther and farther and farther from our house were all flattened. They were flattened, they were bombed. So I could see from that video, from where my house used to be, I could see places that I have never seen in my life. I mean, areas, I can see areas, beyond my house that I've never seen from that place. So this is a crime against humanity. This is a crime not only against humanity, but also against, not in Palestine, but also against everyone who's been watching this and demanding a ceasefire and demanding an arms embargo. But nothing is happening despite all the evidence, despite all the footage that's been shared online. I mean, the very strange thing about this genocide is that a massacre takes place, and then a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on the internet, you see videos of what's happening. It's not like a month later, a week later, you get breaking news after the journalist, makes it back to his home country and reports, oh yes, I saw a massacre in Beit Lahia last week, and I met with some survivors, and you're watching this live. You're watching this live, and nothing is happening. You get news and pleas from people who are saying, come, please help us, please help us. I did that in one interview on Sky News, I think 10 days ago, of Arafat family in Zaytoun neighborhood. I posted that video and showed it and showed it while I was having that live interview of a woman who was moving her hand still alive while trapped under the rubble. In that airstrike, 13 people, the grandfather, the grandmother, 2 of their sons, the wives of the sons, and 5 grandchildren. They were all killed. That woman was still alive at the time, and I said in my interview, please, I hope that someone can see this and can help, rescue this woman. But a few hours later, after the Palestinian civil defense teams were allowed to go to that area, they found her dead. So it's very strange that you are seeing videos from this. Just imagine, sometimes I ask myself, what if, during the Holocaust, what if international journalists, of course there were no international journalists allowed into the concentration camps, right? But what if the Jewish people had Instagram and X and Facebook, and from inside the concentration camps, they were documenting their lives, how the Nazis were killing them and starving them? What if they were posting these videos and posting online, and then you have Nazis saying, oh, this is propaganda, we are not doing this, these are lies. But they themselves, and the Nazis themselves document and share videos of their war crimes they are committing. This is what's happening in Gaza. And the world shall never be forgiven for allowing this to happen.
No, I think that's such an important thing you just said, because in many ways, this is why I think what's happening in Gaza is actually worse than the Holocaust, because the Holocaust was hidden from view of most of the world until many years later. People didn't actually know exactly what happened, and the Germans were not publicizing it. In fact, it was something they were trying to hide, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, not only is it so documented, like you mentioned, Israelis are celebrating it. I think I saw you post recently a video of Israelis in a very celebratory fashion destroying aid. Yeah. It was back in January 2024, but destroying aid, including with their children. Yes. I remember back in 2024 watching Israelis hosting like these carnivals at the border next to Gaza with like moon bounces for their kids to play out, to basically try to organize people to oppose any aid going into Gaza. This is a society that has repeatedly demonstrated just how fascist it is. And they're very proud of that fascism, to the point where in their media, you see them celebrating raping Palestinians in prisons and calling for it. They had right to rape rallies. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think that's another shocking aspect of all of this.
This video is the only concrete evidence that a rape has happened. A case of rape has happened in Palestine, Israel, in the past few months. So there is no concrete evidence that the Palestinian people, raped any Israelis. But there is a concrete evidence, concrete evidence that a Palestinian has been raped inside the Israeli prisons. And it was shared by the Israeli media, then not the Palestinian media, the Israeli media. So this is there is a case of of rape. So what is the reaction of the world? Nothing.
I mean, I would also point to the media. I actually want to talk to you here about media complicity, because one of the reasons, that most people probably don't even know what you just said is correct is because you did have concrete evidence of Israeli soldiers using rape as a weapon inside their dungeons, essentially, for Palestinians. And the media was quite silent about it. Whereas the media went on and on and on, repeating what turned out to be unproven, in many cases, just blatant lies that were later said to be lies by the people who said them, about Palestinians committing mass rape as a weapon of war. And that has continued to be repeated by American politicians. But I also want to talk about the media complicity.
Not politicians only, but also presidents of the country.
Right. Donald Trump and Joe Biden repeatedly said that over and over again. But with regard to the media, Mosab, you have personally experienced some of the absurdity of the media, and I want to show some of it real quick before I get your reaction here. In particular, this is something that you shared about your communication with a BBC producer. This is from last year. This is from October of 2024. And you posted screenshots of your back and forth with a BBC producer. And for those who can't see and can only are listening on just podcast, I'm just going to read the exchange. So you're asking for updates. This is last October 13th. And the producer says, "Hey, sorry, there's always ruthless news cycle. I wasn't working on Middle East yesterday or today. I left your contact with my colleague again and told them about you." And you responded, "If the BBC and CNN and other outlets invited me and others to speak about what's really happening in Gaza to our families, this wouldn't continue to happen. Everyone is responsible." The producer responds, "Thank you for your message. I understand your frustration. It's not that the BBC doesn't cover the story. We do. However, on certain days, we rely on guests more than on others. I will keep trying in case no one else gets in touch with you today." And then the conversation goes on with you saying, "The thing is not about covering the story. It's about how you cover it. Who speaks about it? The most important thing for me is that people who have been running away from death speak more than analysts and spokespeople." And then this person sent you several messages and then deleted them. So I don't know what those messages said. But after several deleted messages, the producer responds, "I will try today, but the problem is that we juggle multiple lines and people from the World Health Organization or other organizations need to comment on things like vaccine rollouts. We'll update you." You respond very politely, "Thank you, but I understand from you that there's no room for people in Gaza who are actually killed and their families outside. So only room for officials who will give us statistics and condemn." And then the guy just looks like he ghosted you, or girl, sorry. And it's just you saying, "Hi, hope all is well. I lost 16 members of my aunt's family," and no response from anyone at the BBC. And then another day you say, "Hello, my wife lost 22 members of her uncle's family." And it seems like you're just not getting a response here. That's one. And then I think these are really important to say. So here's another exchange that you had. This is you said it was with a bureau chief in Jerusalem of a major global newspaper.
Yes, I did reveal the name later.
Oh, okay. So you're more than welcome to say it, because I didn't see that reveal.
Patrick Kingsley, the New York Times.
Oh, right. From the New York Times. Okay. So Patrick Kingsley from the New York Times. Go ahead.
I tried to give him a chance, but until, that was what date was it? Was this?
This was, I think, this month. It was July 13th, 2025. So a few weeks
ago. Yeah. Since that date, July 12th, right?
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah. 13th.
Yeah. So he did not respond after that message. And until my second cousin was killed while trying to get aid near the Zikim crossing. I wrote him, "Hi, Patrick. My cousin was killed. I sent him information." And then a few minutes later, I saw this piece by the New York Times, which he wrote about the massacres, near the aid sites and the Zikim crossing. And the headline was not that Israel has committed a war crime, not that that Israel massacred people while seeking aid. No, the headline was that the killing, near the aid site highlights Israel's failure. So it was shocking for me because the death of 90 people.
I saw that. I saw that headline last week.
Yeah, it's not breaking news in itself. We don't see the names, what the death of these people signal, not for the Israelis. I don't care about Israel. What do these deaths highlight for the Palestinian people, for the families of people who were killed? And then he comes up to say that this is highlight Israel's failure to find a plan for post-war Gaza. This is what is important.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a
disgusting headline, right?
It was a disgusting headline. I saw that last week, and I was like, really? Israel's failure? The Israelis have come out and said they have been given orders to intentionally shoot people at these sites. This is not, and it's amazing how the U.S. media still runs cover. Yeah,
this is success for them because the soldiers have carried out, the orders that they were given.
Exactly. Well, so for those who can't see this, this is basically, Mosab, this is you messaging Patrick in the middle of July, checking to see if he wanted to cover the news of a beheaded fetus who was killed with his mother in Shati refugee camp, or if he was planning to do so. Did you see the videos or photos? I'm happy to help find and connect with the families there. And he says, "Thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate it." And then he basically just ghosted you. And didn't want any information and said his team can.
Yeah, I checked whether he's going to do that, if he wanted me to connect him with people, because I was not in touch with people. But I told him, if you are willing, I can try and find the people, the family. But later, I did not know that the mother and father and a sibling of that beheaded fetus were also killed in that airstrike. But later I managed to reach out to the uncle and aunt of that beheaded fetus. But I mean, again, Patrick told me, "Hi, Mosab, thank you. And don't worry, we have a great team."
Yeah. And I think it's amazing because you're basically offering to help do the journalism for him because he's not doing it. And he's still like, "No, thanks." So there seems to be some sort of policy at the New York Times. And then I wanted to show one more absurd exchange that Abu Bakr Abid posted with somebody from the BBC. I don't know if you saw this, but this was a exchange he had with BBC World producers who had invited him on to speak. And the person, after they had agreed to it, this producer said to Abid, or to Abu Bakr, "Just a few things first. Can we move the interview back? And then also, sorry, it's our policy to ask, do you or your parents have any political affiliations to Hamas?" I mean, I just find this so unbelievably inappropriate. I just don't understand why that matters and why that's inappropriate. I mean, nobody asks Israelis. I guarantee you the BBC producers are not saying to the Israelis, "Do you or your family have any affiliation with the Israeli military?" Which most of them do, by the way. I'm curious your reaction to that.
We know that some of the New York Times staff who write about Gaza and Palestine, Israel, they have relatives, they have sons, immediate family members who either served in the IDF or are already soldiers there, or who themselves worked in the Israeli army. So we have not only people who are being interviewed like Abu Bakr, but staff writers in the New York Times. So people who are telling the whole world the truth while they are themselves part of or who served in the genocidal Israeli army. So this I don't understand this duplicity. We don't have I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there any Palestinian staff writer in the New York Times?
No, I don't believe so. It's almost always somebody who seems to have some family affiliation with the Israeli military, almost routinely. It's actually quite shocking. I mean, I don't know what the case is with Patrick Kingsley, but I know in the past bureau chiefs, like I remember Jody Verdoren had family connections with the Israelis, or was it Isabel Kirchner? I think was somebody. That's actually, sorry, that's the Washington Post. It's like, it seems to be all these media outlets, but it's completely outrageous. And then you see the kinds of headlines and stories that you get. And I mean, I don't know. I just have to say, back during the Nuremberg trials, there was media that was held accountable for its complicity in the Holocaust.
Yeah. So many of them will be held accountable.
And then, I remember. Go ahead. So, yeah, we have the receipts.
We have evidence. I totally forget about the BBC exchange.
Because so many have happened since then, I'm sure.
I even have something with CNN. When I was in Gaza, I think I posted about that. It was a Jim Acosta show. Oh, I was in Gaza at the time at the Jabalia refugee camp, and they wanted to do an interview with me. That was in October or early November 2023. So I agreed, and then later they had to move the interview to a later time, which was maybe 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Gaza time. I told them I cannot do that because it's very early in Gaza, and people maybe in the refugee camp, would suspect that there is someone who's speaking English in the middle of the night. Is he doing something? So I told them, no, I couldn't do that, in the Jabalia refugee camp in the middle of the night. Why in Jabalia? If I was in Beit Lahiya, it's different. But in Jabalia, there are no there are no lanes between the houses. The houses are just like boxes, like boxes of matches attached to each other. So there are even in how some houses in the Jabalia refugee camp share the same wall.
Oh,
so
wow.
I told them no, I didn't, and then they did not respond to me, right? And I followed up. They did not respond to me.
It's really incredible. And then I wanted to ask you, I'm not going to make you watch it because I'm sure you've seen it so many times and I don't want to subject you to this again. But I remember that exchange, and I'm going to insert it here in post-production of you after you won the Pulitzer Prize. You were on MSNBC. And there's one of the, I don't remember I don't know if she's an anchor or just one of their analysts or TV personalities. But she was one of the people interviewing you, and she starts asking you about how dare you, I don't even know what her criticism was. She was accusing you of not referring to one of the Israeli soldiers as a hostage, the Israeli soldiers who was being held in Gaza as a hostage, and how could you dehumanize her that way?
Controversial,
yes, exactly. She called it controversial. And then I bless you, your response. I don't know how you maintained your composure because I would have completely lost it. But you actually looked at this woman and you were like, I've lost so many family members. Are you serious right now? And she just kept digging in harder and harder.
Your win is not without controversy, obviously. And in particular, some comments you've made in the past about the Israeli hostages have been very controversial, where you have said that most of the hostages held by Hamas are not actually hostages. I believe you specifically singled out Emily Damari, who's a 28-year-old who was kidnapped from her home and held for 471 days and lost 2 fingers. I'm just wondering, is there anything you want to clarify about those comments?
First of all, I did not question her status as a hostage because she's a hostage, but because what other Palestinians who were kidnapped. I mean, I don't want to name people, but I have people in my family who were kidnapped from checkpoints, from schools, from shelters, and they are named prisoners. So my question was, why should Emily and other hostages be named hostages while my loved ones should be named prisoners? So that was the question. I've never denied anyone suffering. I know that everyone is suffering, Israelis and Palestinians. But why are our sufferings not acknowledged? Why are we called terrorists? Why are we called prisoners of war? While the Israelis who were kidnapped from Israel are named hostage. Does this give them more humanity because they are Israelis, while my loved ones are being named prisoners and they are tortured? I mean, I myself, by the way, I was kept hostage for 53 hours. I was blindfolded and handcuffed and was beaten in my face and asked for the Israeli soldiers to see a doctor, and they denied me any medical treatment. So no one is talking about this. Why? They are not acknowledging my suffering. So I questioned, why are they given this privilege of being called a hostage? While I am called in all the social, in all news platforms, I was detained. I was a prisoner. Why? Am I less human than anyone else? So that was the question. It was not the question that she was not kidnapped, that she was not tortured. I did not talk about any of this.
Well, you did criticize some Western outlets for humanizing the hostages.
Because we are not humanized.
Well, I guess my question to you is, wouldn't the better approach to be to humanize everyone, to treat all humans?
Do you know what I'm going through every day?
I cannot even imagine.
Do you know how many members of my family were killed?
I cannot even imagine.
31 members of my family were killed in one airstrike. And 4 of them were first cousins, were killed, with 2 of them with their husband and their children. And you are questioning me how to use language here?
Oh, you brought it up. I'm just asking you to elaborate on comments you had made that have attracted a lot of criticism.
And so I'm just like curious.
You said you brought it up.
Yeah, she brought it up.
You invited me to speak about my work and the Pulitzer. You asking me about one of my posts from among about 5. I think after October 7th, I posted over 6,000 posts. That was one of the posts, and it was not denying that Emily de Marary, was taken hostage or she was captured or detained. That was not, my question. The question is, why is she called a hostage while the other Palestinians, teachers, doctors, nurses, barbers, teachers, taxi drivers, when they are taken from hospitals, from school shelters, they are called prisoners. So why is she called a hostage while others are not called also hostages? So that was the post. It was not about her. I mean, I didn't hear about her until after she was released, and I saw her video, dressed in an army uniform and her having, I think it was a gun in her lap, and she was talking about her serving, I don't know in what unit, whether it's an army or not. But the fact that she was a military person, whether she served in the police, in the army, still she is a militarized person. So she is referred to as a hostage, while doctors, nurses, even me, a teacher, right, a poet, a prize-winning poet, who was when I was abducted, I was referred to as prisoner or a detainee, not a hostage. Why? What is the difference between me and her?
Well, you're not a soldier. That's actually the difference. Is you're not a soldier.
I've never carried a gun in my life. I've never carried a gun in my life, and I am a refugee, and I was born there, and I lost family members, and I was wounded as a child. What kind of suffering? I don't like to compare sufferings of people because suffering must not happen to anyone. But I mean, I am the one who has been injured at the age of 16 as a child. I am the one who was born in a refugee camp. I am the one who lost his grandparents before he saw them, and they died in the refugee camp, and they were buried in the refugee camp, right? I'm not sure if you can see here the piece of shrapnel here.
Yeah.
So that's where I got one piece, because sometimes people, this is a chance for me to show, here, this is a piece of shrapnel, just, this is my windpipe, and this is, just see how close it was. And here is another one.
Wow. And this was from when?
This was from January 2009. I was 16 years old. So I was 16 years old when I was injured, and I survived by chance, right? So I am the victim. I am the victim. You cannot ask me question. Oh, why do you call this this? You have not given me the right name. I am the refugee. I am the one who was injured. I am the one who lost his house. I am the one who have the right to return to my grandparents' house in Jaffa. Talk about me first and humanize me first, and then ask me, oh, why did you not humanize this soldier or this hostage? Humanize me first, and then ask me those as the questions.
No, that's really beautifully said. And I didn't realize your family is from Jaffa. And that's, of course, like much of the Palestinian experience. I think 80% of people in the Gaza Strip are 70% are refugees or the descendants of refugees from areas that were kicked out of other parts of historic Palestine during the Nakba.
My 4 grandparents, by the way, are from Jaffa.
Oh, all 4. So you're like 100% Jaffa.
I'm a pure Jaffan.
You're a pure Jaffan.
My daughter's name, I think, I'm not sure if I said this. I have 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl's name is Jaffa.
It's a beautiful name. That's a beautiful name. I wanted to ask you about Gaza before October 7th, because obviously Gaza has been under siege, or had been under siege before, for for 15 years, I believe, before October 7th, before this round of genocide. And, you've experienced several wars throughout your life in Gaza. I mean, you're so young. I'm sorry I'm aging you, but it's on Wikipedia. You are 32, I believe. So in your very short life, you've experienced war after war after war in Gaza, but also Gaza had a vibrant life as well. So I'm just curious if you can talk a bit about what Gaza was like before, because now everybody in the world knows Gaza as this place that has just been reduced to rubble and people, running from bombs and getting shot while getting food.
Yeah, I mean, Gaza is a beautiful city. It's not, sorry, when we refer to Gaza, we refer to the Gaza Strip, right? And even, by the way, Rania, when we talk about the Gaza Strip, even the name tells us that this is not the whole of Gaza, because it is a strip of Gaza. This is part of Gaza, because in 1948 Israel went on to occupy and annex, other Palestinian cities that were, part of the future Palestinian or Arab state in 1948. So they annexed and they occupied much of the Palestinian land. Part of the cities that were part of Gaza are occupied by Israel right now. Okay, we're not talking about the Gaza Strip. I'm talking about other villages and towns that are now part of Israel. So the Gaza Strip is a very beautiful strip of land. It's all of the Gaza is on the beach. I was born, by the way, in a Shati camp. Shati means beach. So I was born on the beach camp, on a camp that is on the beach. And most of the people who were expelled from Jaffa, because Jaffa is a sea city, it is a city on the sea, they prefer to move and live in the Jabali, in Shati refugee camp, because they couldn't live far, from the refugee. That's how they made life, because they were fishermen, so they had to live in the Shati refugee camp or on beaches, on cities and camps on the beach. So because they wanted to continue, fishing and surviving in the refugee camp. So Gaza is a very beautiful spot, plot of land. It is very small. The first time I left Gaza, it was in 2019. I was 27 years old. And just imagine Gaza. I mean, I'm 100% sure that before October 7th, a very small number of people knew what Gaza was. Gaza has not only been under siege since 2007. It's wrong, to believe that the siege on Gaza started on 2007. Gaza has been under siege since after the occupation of Palestine in 1948. The Israelis, whether it was in 2007, whether it was 2000, whether it was 1948, the Israelis have not allowed the Palestinians to build an airport. There was an airport only for a year and a half between 1999, and that was part of the Oslo Accord, between 1999 and 2000 or 2001, about a year and a half. It was part of the Oslo Accords, that the Palestinians can have a seaport and an airport. But Israel destroyed the airport in Gaza. That was 2000, 2001. So if there was no siege, let's talk about 2000, 2000. If there was no siege in Gaza, why haven't the Palestinians been able to build an airport in Gaza? It's because it's under siege, under occupation. Why haven't the Palestinians been able to sail in their own sea or receive visitors from other parts of the world? When did we see any ship, sailing onto Gaza? It was maybe one time. I think it was 2009, 2011, at the Freedom Flotilla. One time. But other than that, I, as a Palestinian, have never sailed in our sea, in Gaza Sea, as far as maybe 3-4 nautical miles. If you go farther, there are gunboats, Israeli gunboats. So this did not start in 2007 or 2006. It has been It has been the case forever. So Gaza, we should educate people and tell them that Gaza has not been under siege since 2000. It's the siege. If you want to talk about the siege on Gaza, you're talking about the closure of the border crossings. If you want to talk about siege in this time, it's about the closure on the part of Egypt and the part of Israel. So there are two border crossing passenger travelers border crossing, one between Gaza and Egypt, which is Rafah, and one between Israel and Gaza, which is Erez. So Israel and Egypt, close the border crossings between Gaza and the outside world. So that's when the siege, so-called siege, started. But if you want to talk about siege, Gaza has been under siege and occupation forever. No airport, no seaport. And even, by the way, even the people who wanted to return to Gaza, right? For example, someone like me, when I left Gaza in 2019 for the first time, when I wanted to return to Gaza in 2021, I had to wait until the border crossing opened because I couldn't land in Egypt if the border was closed. It has to be. Otherwise, I would be trapped in the airport in Cairo. This is something I knew. I'm sure no one knows these things, but this is what it means to be a Palestinian. So Gaza has been under siege. We cannot have an airport in our cities. Even, by the way, this is the case in the West Bank. The West Bank does not have an airport. Why?
Right.
So if you want to talk about siege, talk about these things too. We have a sea. We cannot sail as far as 7 nautical miles. That's where the border, the gunboats are positioned. But even within the first 3 or 4 nautical miles, there are gunboats. And we see videos of Israeli gunboats just recently, seizing and abducting fishermen, not one nautical mile, 2 nautical miles into the sea, but even within the first 100 feet in the sea, they abduct them, seize their boats, etc. So this is the Gaza that I did not live. But other than that, so I focused here in my answer, on the siege. But Gaza is a beautiful city. There are lots of, especially in Beit Lahiya, where I grew up in 2000, after 2000, lots of cornfields, strawberry farms. My father-in-law and his siblings are strawberry farmers. So Beit Lahiya is very, very well known for strawberry farms. So it's a very beautiful city despite the siege. I think people can realize how hard the siege is. I mean, I'm talking about people in Gaza. They can realize how hard the siege is when they leave Gaza and see the outside world. But in Gaza, people are under siege, right? But they cannot know how hard the siege is because this is where they have been living forever. When they leave Gaza, and they fly from one city to another and go to a pharmacy or go to a hospital, find every medicine that they need, find every food they need, go to the parks, sail in the sea, buy everything they want. Anything that we want to buy from outside of Gaza, it comes through Israel, and sometimes it's not allowed to go to Israel. For example, DHL only delivers document papers. DHL,
in Gaza.
Yes.
To Gaza.
So if you cannot send me a laptop, for example. I cannot buy something from Amazon, for example, an electronic device, an iPhone, anything. You can't. This is the Israeli policy.
That's so insane to think about it like that. But I can't even imagine growing up until you said the age of 27. You didn't leave Gaza until 27, and you just see all the abundance and the ability to just move freely from one place to another. And it's like, I didn't even know this could be this way. I also wanted to ask you.
I want to say one funny thing. One of my friends managed to leave Gaza for the first time, and that was a few months before October 2023. So he was I think also 27 or 28 when he left Gaza for the first time. So when he booked his flight, I had to explain to him, because at the time I had more experience traveling. So I had to explain to him the difference between what is it? The gate number, the gate flight, boarding time. I told him, there is a difference between the flight time and the boarding time. What is it called? I forgot even the word in English.
For which one?
No, I'm talking about, the different parts of the airport.
Like when you the security check and the gate.
I had to explain
the
to him.
Duty free.
Yes, exactly. I had to explain to him that there is boarding time, there is boarding ticket. You have to pay attention so you do not miss your flight. Terminal. I told him, Terminal 1, there is Terminal 2. Don't be confused. 28 years old, and I had to explain to him. He didn't know anything about traveling.
It's so insane. It's so insane. And then you just have right over a border, you have these people who are settlers who live like as if they're European. And it's just like night and day. They've created this situation that's so horrific in Gaza. And then I wanted to get your reaction to the fact that, we're recording this a day after the Israeli human rights organization, B'Tselem, released a document and videos officially calling what Israel's doing in Gaza genocide for the first time. So now you have an Israeli human rights organization calling it genocide. You mentioned we're 22 months into this. We're almost 2 years into a genocide. So I'm curious your thoughts and feelings about that. I mean, is it important or is it too little too late? Does it matter?
Well, it is late. We, the Palestinian people, individuals, we have been the first people who called it a genocide because, I think if you go to my Facebook posts, you will see that I called it a genocide. I think maybe October 10th, October 11th, 12th. I called it a genocide. Why? I'm not an expert, but now I am proved to be an expert because I know that the genocidal statements that have been issued by the Israeli officials are not only statements. These are people who do what they say, not only can do whatever they say. It's for example, it's unlike Hamas, when they say we're gonna do October 7th again and again, we're gonna kill all the Israelis or Jews, whatever. Hamas can say this from tomorrow to they can't do this. Okay, they do not have an army, they do not have the ability to do anything. And they say, they want to kill everyone. They can't. Literally they can't. But Israel, when they say this, we know that they are the most powerful army in the Middle East. They have Iron Dome, they have F-16s, F-35, they have AI, they have the support of the United States and most European countries. So when they say something, and they from day one, they cut off the electricity and water and close the border crossings. So, when they say something, it's not only words, these are actions.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear the rest, you can access it by becoming a Breakthrough News member at patreon.com/breakthrough news.